Hi everyone, this is Maureen Green. I'm a licensed therapist, and in this video we're going to discuss being in our body in preparation for deeper trauma work, or just as a skill in our Western busy world, in a society that really has conditioned us to just kind of survive and stay busy, distract, and have a glass of wine to take the edge off at the end of the day. The focus will be just to understand how to bring back your attention from your brain and thinking to below the neck. So one way that I've learned over the years to do this is with some of the gurus in the field of mindfulness. Tara Brach is one of them, whom I admire quite a bit and hope to meet one day. She came up with an acronym RAIN, which is a very mindfulness-based way of being in our body and being with our suffering. And Thich Nhat Hanh, who's a Buddhist monk, also has very solid ways of teaching people to be with their suffering. If we are not able to be with our body and be with our suffering, we cannot heal. As a matter of fact, if you've paid attention, anytime you are resisting some kind of suffering, you're resisting a feeling, you tense up, you don't want to have it, you are bothered that you're feeling something, some type of way about someone, if you pay attention, you'll see that that grows. The physiology in your body is more activated when you are resisting having an experience that is already happening. So, rule number one, first thing we have to do is change the relationship we have with emotions and with our body. That also includes with the physiological sensations that emotions produce. And every emotion has its own physiological expression in the body. So just think of when you feel sad. Sadness has its own blueprint. Sadness makes us want to do certain things like sleep, withdraw, isolate. Sadness has a function. Sadness has a purpose. In my next video, I will talk about sadness and give you very specific information on how sadness and grief can actually be a healing, a growing part of our life, instead of something that stagnates us and becomes an illness of some sort. But in general, if we're looking at emotions, I want to begin planting a seed on how to look at emotions and sensations as communicators to your body. How else does the body communicate with us if it's not through sensation or emotion? You know, when you drive a car, you have a dashboard with all the signals, and when the gas runs out, the gas light comes on. If you need oil change, that light comes on, engine light comes on, etc. The car has a way to communicate with us so that we know what's going on and we can tend to it. And if it communicates and we don't tend to it, what happens? Right? We run out of gas on the freeway, which I've done once or twice. Or our car breaks down, something happens negative that if we don't address whatever the car gives us information on. Well, it's the same way. It's the same way, guys. It's the same way with our body. When our body gives us a certain emotion, because it doesn't feel convenient or it doesn't feel good. People say, I don't feel good. I don't want to feel this way. Or because maybe you feel it's not fair that you feel this way. I had a client yesterday say, I am bothered by being bothered about this. I am afraid of feeling afraid. I am anxious of feeling the next panic attack happen. Those are very common responses. And what we do automatically is we begin to resist the current experience. So I'm going to have to remind you that part of the healing process is owning and reclaiming all parts of us, not just the parts that look good to the world and to our friends. How many of you answer questions like, how are you doing today? How many of you say, fine, good, okay. But inside, fine is really not an experience. It's not even an emotion. It's just a way we respond socially because we don't think anybody cares when they really ask us about, how we're feeling. So we have to change the relationship with our body. We have to listen, and we have to honor, and we have to allow. And today, I want to teach you about a RAIN technique that Tara Brach talks about, as I mentioned earlier. and incorporate that with Thich Nhat Hanh's language, which is a very kind of a foreign language for us, coming from Eastern medicine, that we don't even think that way. So I want to integrate those two and give you something that you can begin doing at home, whether it's in preparation for deeper work of trauma, or just simply just being more present with your body and honoring it. So many of us end up with physical ailments. There's been so many times in my life in the past, especially when I was working for Kaiser, I would go on a vacation and a part of my body would break down because I didn't listen to my own body. I'd have a shoulder would go out, my back would go out. And it would be right when my body would say, okay, it's time to rest. And then boom, all of this would come out. I'm sure you all could have some kind of similar experiences. So what is RAIN, and how do we build a different relationship with our body? The RAIN acronym, the letter R, stands for recognize. Before we can do anything, we have to recognize what's going on. So recognize what is the emotion? What am I actually feeling? Can I name that feeling? Or can I name that sensation? Sometimes it's not a feeling, it's just a sensation. I have a lump in my throat. I have a pit in my stomach. I feel jittery and uncomfortable. I feel like I'm crawling out of my skin. I feel fluttery and anxious in my chest. I feel heavy and empty inside. So all of those are experiences that we have to recognize. Our body's trying to tell us something, and we pretty much try to shut it down most of the time. So R is for recognize. A is for allow. Can I allow this experience to exist? Can I not resist it? Can I not push it away? Can I give it some air? Oftentimes I say, okay, find that feeling in your body. Is it in your throat? Is it in your chest? Can you take a deep breath into that part of your body that is experiencing that sensation or experiencing that feeling? And can you say to yourself, either out loud or quietly in your mind, you're allowed to exist. Now, this is very foreign to us. We don't do this. Some of us might even think it's kind of weird, but it is part of reclaiming our own freedom of being with our body and changing the relationship with our body. So R, recognize. A, allow. Give it air. Allow it. Tell it. Sadness, you are allowed to exist in my body. Fear, you are allowed to exist. Welcome. You are allowed to be here. All right. I stands for investigate. Now, I know what you're thinking. Probably thinking about, who caused this? Who did this? We often go to blame. Have you noticed, okay, I feel bad, so who did it? And what do I need to stop? Or who do I need to talk to about this? Especially if it's about our kids. Investigate doesn't mean externally. It doesn't mean look outside of you to see what's causing this feeling or who's causing this sensation. It means looking inside of you. So if it's in your chest, if it's in your stomach, can you describe the sensation? Can you describe the intensity of that sensation? Is it sharp? Is it dull? Is it empty? Is it prickly? Is it a lump? Is it heavy? Is it lethargic? What is the actual experience? And what location of the body do you feel that? And maybe there's more than one location. So can we investigate inside of us? Again, going below the neck and being with the body, letting the body talk to us, inviting to have a conversation with our body. And N stands for nourish or nurture, normalize. That's not a common thing we do. We might kiss a boo-boo on a kid's hand or they're ouchy, but we don't do this with our emotions. We want to fix it and make it go away, including with those we are raising or our loved ones. So nurturance is a very different way of looking at how do we nourish and nurture our suffering. Because if I am feeling an uncomfortable experience, then I am suffering. I am having a moment, or maybe it's longer than a moment. Maybe I've been feeling this for a long time, and I am suffering. Don't I deserve some nurturance? Can I tell myself, it's okay, it's all right, you get to exist, I got you? How would you talk to a friend? How would you talk to a little child if they were struggling? Some of us don't even have the language of that. So this is where I'd like to incorporate Thich Nhat Hanh's language, which was very helpful to me to be present in my own suffering. Instead of going to our head and judge, I don't have time for this, this is, I'm fine, I'll be all right, I need to just snap out of it, I don't need to sit here feel sorry for myself. If you pay attention, you'll notice how much judgment comes up the moment we go below the neck. And our brain starts to fire up all kinds of shame-based, judgmental thoughts about our experience and how to stop it, squish it, and move on. Well, Thich Nhat Hanh has this beautiful saying that, again, to me, sounds like a foreign language. He says, welcome suffering, welcome sadness, welcome fear, and he smiles, which smiling releases oxytocin from the brain. It decreases the production of cortisol and adrenaline, which are the stress hormones, and it begins to gush out these soothing hormones from in our brain that begin to calm the body. Daniel Siegel, who's a famous trauma psychiatrist, also has coined the term name it to tame it. If you name what you're feeling and you can be with it, you tame the intensity of the experience. Even if you haven't resolved the trauma, you are able to tame your own internal physiological experience, and one with your children too, by the way, or your partners or your coworkers. So we want to use Thich Nhat Hanh's language and find ways to nourish this experience. Hello, fear. Hello, sadness. Smile. Begin the release of that positive hormone and say in a very compassionate voice, I'm going to take good care of you. Now, how many of us actually talk to ourselves or anyone that way, right? We don't. It's not a common language. This is rebuilding and reshaping our relationship with suffering. In the last year, I've learned that as my job, I've always thought of myself as someone who really is in the fight to eliminate suffering from this world, or in my patients' lives, or in my own life. And I learned from a lot of the teaching of Thich Nhat Hanh that suffering cannot be eliminated, but our relationship with suffering has to change. Our relationship with suffering creates currently more suffering. When we resist what already is happening, when we resist reality, our suffering persists. When we push away and deny and avoid and reject the unwanted thing that's happening, that's causing us suffering, suffering grows. So there's tools on radical acceptance that maybe we'll cover in some future videos. But for now, check out Tara Brach's videos on rain, and check out Thich Nhat Hanh's videos on managing intense emotions. Redefining our relationship with our body is part of the work that we all need to do in our Western world, where we have neglected and forgotten what actually the body communicates with all of these emotions. Next video will be on sadness, the purpose of it, urges of it, what it communicates, what is the function of sadness, and how we can actually make appropriate use of sadness and depression, by the way, also. So most people hate that feeling. I don't know if those of you who've watched, I think, what is the movie called? Inside Out for children. If you remember, if you watched it, Inside Out, in Inside Out, sadness was one emotion everybody avoided, right? It is everybody that touched sadness turned blue. It was very cute. And everybody avoided sadness. But in the end of the movie, sadness was the only emotion that was able to connect with the little girl and get a sense of sort of community and healing for her. So next video will be on sadness. I look forward to talking to you soon again. If you like the information, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, and please comment with any questions or concerns. I'd like to know if this is helpful or not. Thank you so much. Take good care. Until next time.